Greetings. What I'd like to do here is show you how to draw the characters of the Hebrew alphabet. The letters, the consonants in Hebrew are so different from any language I imagine you've ever learned. And I've provided you a PDF with little arrows that indicate, where to start and where to end and in which order to draw each of the lines. But what I'd like to do is just illustrate it here for you on this screencast so that you can see me actually draw every letter. And what I'd like you to do is have paper with you and draw along with me. There will be time because I'll have to erase each letter after I draw it. So there should be time for you to practice. So the first letter is, of course, Aleph. And to do that, you want to draw a line diagonally from left to right, and then a little arching line going to and coming from that middle line. This is the Aleph. Erase it here. The second letter is a Bate, and you draw that with an arch, 90-degree but smooth arch, and then a flat line at the bottom. And I want to draw your attention to this part down here in the corner, that there's a little ledge at the bottom, which differentiates the Bate from a similar looking letter called the Cove, which we'll get to in a minute, but you draw that way. So it's basically the same letter except it doesn't have the ledge. So that ledge is really important on the Bate. The third letter in the Hebrew alphabet is Gimel. And Gimel, you kind of draw like the bottom of a stick figure, just their waist and their feet. You can see the ancient representation of a camel there a little bit, and Gimel is indeed the word camel. Gamal is the word camel. The next letter is Dawlat, which is the Hebrew word door, and you can see this is kind of suggestive of a door. Again, I want to draw your attention to the ledge in the corner. That's very important because it differentiates from another similar letter called the Rach, which you'll do like that, and we'll get to that in a minute. The next letter is the letter He. He is like a Rach, except it has this vertical line that does not come all the way together, right? You see there's a gap there, and that gap is very important because, again, it differentiates from another similar looking letter that I'll show you in a second. So that's He. Next, we have Vav. Vav is just a straight line, basically. You can do a little bit of a serif at the top, but it's just a straight line. And Vav is the word nail, and indeed it looks just like a nail. You'll remember these letters are a little different from the ones that you'll see in a computer font. And that's somewhat intentional. Here is a Zine. Just a vertical line with an angle line. It's like a teeter-totter, extreme teeter-tottering or something. That's very high, but also with a short teeter or totter. I'm not sure which one is which. Okay, He, Vav, Zayin. Hate is the next letter, and hate is a little bit more traditional doorway, what we would think of as a doorway. But you'll notice it's very similar to the He, except this part is actually enclosed. It's complete. So you want to take note of that. That's the hate. Next we have Tate. Tate is all one motion. Start in the middle and go up to the corner and around. It's kind of a cool looking letter. If you just continued that around, it would be like a spiral, one of those psychedelic spiral things. Okay, the next letter, the 10th letter, is Yod. Yod is just a little right angle in the corner that's smooth. The next letter is Kaf. There are two Kafs. One is if it appears anywhere at the beginning or middle of a letter. It looks like that. Again, without the ledge here in the corner. And if the Kaf comes at the end of a word, it looks like that, which is basically just the Kaf and this bottom part of the Kaf, the hinge right here at the corner is broken and it's just hanging down. And that's the final letter of the Kaf. So if it appears at the end of a word, it's called Kaf Sofit. Next we have LAmid. LAmid is the only letter that breaks the vertical plane. If you have like the imaginary drawing lines, the LAmid breaks the top line. It actually doesn't break the bottom line, but the way that I drew the lines there, it does. So that's the LAmid. Next we have Maim. The way that I draw Maim is I start at the bottom and I go over to the right, up, and around to make like a triangle if you played the triangle in the symphony or something. And then it's got a little ear coming off the side. Okay, that's a Maim. And that's what the Maim looks like if it appears anywhere at the beginning or middle of a word. If it appears at the end, you have the Maim Sofit, and that is just a box. And if you want, you can bring that final corner in a little bit, but a box is fine as well. You want to make sure your corners are fairly rigid or in right angles, because there is a letter coming up that looks just like a circle. Excuse me, it looks like a circle. And if you do the Maim Sofit and you do your corners a little too smoothly, then it may actually look like a samech. So that's Maim. The next letter is Nun. And the way that I'd like you to draw Nun is without the serif at the top. Because if you draw the serif at the top, which the computer font has, then chances are sometimes if you draw Nun too quickly, it will look like a Kaf. So if you try and do that, that would be a more traditional Nun, and you do that too quickly, it's going to look like that, and that's a Kaf. That's not a Nun. There's also a final Nun, and that's more or less just a vertical line, a little bit of a serif at the top, and it just goes straight down. You want to draw it hanging beneath that imaginary bottom line of the drawing paper. And here we have our Samech is next, which looks like the final Maim. It's basically just a circle, and you've got a little bit of a tag there at the top, which is the initial point for me. But you could also draw it the opposite direction, start and move left instead of right, and then have your little tag come over the top. Either one is fine. And if you're left-handed, one of those may be easier than the other. The next letter is Ayin. Ayin, you just go down and over with a fairly smooth curve, and then you have a line that comes from the middle and arches towards the point where it turns. Now the word Ayin is the word eye. And you can see that this actually looks like half of an eye. If you just complete it, you would have an eye right there. So you can imagine that as you're trying to remember how to draw the ayin. It actually is half an eye. Okay, Samech ayin. Pei is our next letter. Pei is the word mouth, and indeed the letter actually looks like a mouth. So the way that I draw it is I start in the middle and I come up and around and down. There's also a final pei, a pei sofit, and it works the same as the Kaf, and that this bottom part, the hinge came loose and just goes straight down, so you just go like that. That's the pay sofit. Sofit is the word end. So it's when a pay comes at the end of a word. Okay, Samik Ein pay. Oh, this is not wanting to erase. Sorry. Okay, we're back. After the pay, the next letter is a Sadi. Oops, here we go. Sadi. Oh. Sorry, just a sec. Okay, technical difficulties aside, here we go. Sadi. Sadi, you start in the upper left-hand corner, go on an angle down, and then straight across. So you create a little, what would that be, a greater than sign? And then out of the middle of the vertical line, you come at a diagonal there. Make that connect. Yep. So a lot of students confuse this with the ayin, because the ayin looks somewhat similar. However, the ayin kind of goes in the opposite direction, and the extra line in the ayin is coming from the left to the right, down. The Sadi is going from left to the right, up. Sadi also has a sofit letter, a final, and that's just like a Y with a long tail. So you come down, and then you complete your Y that way, right? So the top of both Sadis are the same, except again, your bottom part here is kind of like the hinge broke, hanging beneath the bottom part of the line upon which you're writing. So that's it, Sadi. We're getting close to the end of our alphabet here. Samik Ayin Pei Sadi. Next letter is Cove. Cove kind of looks like a P, as you can tell. And for the Cove, you're going to want the bottom part of it to drag beneath the line, and then just have a long curve there, like a P. Either one of those Coves would be fine. This is the way that I generally draw it. I didn't draw it quite perfectly the first time there. But anything that basically looks like a P with the bottom part going beneath the bottom line, you should be fine. Rach is the next letter, and it's just a smooth right angle. You could imagine Rach is similar to the word Rosh, which is the word head, and you can kind of imagine a person's head coming here, right? If there's their eye and their nose and their mouth. Oh, it was actually not so bad. At least for my artistic abilities, it actually looked like a person, which I'm proud of. So that's Rach. Next is Zine. And for Zine, you just want to draw a scoop. Zine and Sheen are actually the same letter, just a scoop, and then an angled line in it. The Zine has a dot above the left edge, and the Sheen has a dot above the right edge. Zine is left, Sheen is right. And our very last letter is a Tav. And for the Tav, you can do it in multiple ways, but the way that I do it is start at the bottom right, go up, over, down with a little foot, or a little loop, kind of like an elephant's trunk. And another way to do it would be to start upper left and come down, and then come back and do it that way. You want to make sure you do the trunk, though, to differentiate it from the hate, which I'll draw here. The hate just goes up and down. So it looks just like the Tav, but it doesn't have the hook. And that's it.